Welcome to the Beauty Rosa. I'm your host Pinky, and today we're going to be doing a voiceover because I filmed this video and two others, and once I decided to edit, they had no audio. So I decided I'm going to do a voiceover. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about this style of video. I don't plan on doing it all the time, but maybe when I'm in a rush or don't have time to sit down and film, I will do voiceovers. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this Real Housewives of Potomac reunion part 3. We come in from the cliffhanger of G. We thought he was about to expose the paternity of his son, but instead he confessed that he was diagnosed with bipolar 1. And I felt so bad when he said that, because I'm like, wasn't he just dealing with cancer, and this is something now that he's dealing with as well? He said that bipolar 1 is different from bipolar 2 because of the degree of the mania. So mind you, when he starts talking about it, Mia immediately breaks down, and even though Mia was quick to dismiss Candiace's feelings, Candiace was right there to comfort her. He said his mind plays tricks on him into thinking that his manic behavior is normal. He said that he was diagnosed 2 years ago, but he can think of episodes that he has had since his 20s. He said it's gotten worse over the years. That's what I've heard about mental health issues, is that as you get older, the symptoms tend to be far greater than they once were. And also it explains the wild spending, because if I know anything about manic behavior, you just spend without any sort of financial responsibility. So it makes sense as to why he's in the financial situation that he is right now. He said that he cannot see when he has an episode coming, but those around him can. And he said prior to his separation from Mia, she would constantly tell him, something was wrong, but he just would not listen. He blamed his mania for the reason why he messaged all of her enemies to expose her. And the whole situation with him locking her in a room, he remembers taking her phone, but he does not remember locking her in a room. And he believes that she did have an affair with Ink during the marriage, but not during the duration of it. And I'm like, child, you can believe whatever you want to believe. Ain't no telling. So we ain't gonna let me off the hook with that one. But he said that they have forgiven each other and they're on good terms. He said that they probably would still be together had he gotten a hold of his mental illness sooner. And at some point he begins to cry, and he said it got so bad that he had to check himself into a hospital. And she was pretty much there for him every day that he was there, brought him clothes, and just was extremely supportive. At some point, Giselle expresses concern of what will happen to him now that she is moving on to be with another man. She's leaving him. And Mia says that she will forever take care of him. And I think that is very stand up for Mia to do, because she does not have to do it. That is very sweet of her, but not necessarily her obligation. So that's how you know the love between them is genuine. It might not have started that way, but at some point they did build a bond and love for each other. He is cordial with the side chick, the side man, whatever you want to call him. He's cordial with him and has accepted that he pushed Mia away in the first place. He said his situation with his family is much better. He did say that business-wise, they fired him as CEO because of his mania, but he never lost shares in the business, just his position and salary. And I just appreciate the vulnerability. I appreciate him being honest to that degree. We don't see that often on shows like this, and especially not from older black men. Then we had Nneka's segment, and I don't know, it's just sad that Nneka came in the way that she did. We didn't really get to learn much about her as a person. All we know is that she came in as an opposition towards Wendy. We did get to see her husband. We see that they have money. We know that she's a lawyer, but we never got to see her practice law. Her storyline could have even been her IVF journey, something like. I feel like I know nothing about her personality other than she was a guard dog for the Green Eye Bandits Alliance. She was happily a puppet and allowed them to use her as, oh, this is my dark skinned friend. We couldn't possibly be colorist. I just, she could have given so much more substance, but here we are. I really don't understand why Karen was shading where she lived in Potomac, because Karen, when you and Ray were having tax problems, weren't you living on the outskirts? Like, isn't that why Robin dressed up like a pizza man so that they could clown you for where you were staying? No one could ever call themselves the Grand Dame on this show. You are the only Grand Dame. Yes, ma'am. Understand it. But that part of the clowning, I didn't understand it. So when Andy introduced the very culturally sensitive back and forth between Wendy and Nneka, he really wanted to absolve his hands, production's hands, of any sort of like involvement with how it was presented. And I just don't think you can. I feel like y'all never should have presented this as a storyline, especially since this is not the culture of majority of the cast. I'm sure majority of production. I feel like they were trying to absolve themselves of responsibility when a lot of this blood is on your hands as well. This storyline should have been completely scrapped from the jump. Andy brought up the fact that they wanted to bring Nneka on the show through her. And they asked Wendy, do you know her? Wendy said, I don't. And they said, well, she claims she knows you. Nneka comes back and says, well, we did meet once at this event and we had a conversation. And Wendy popped back with, so you did tell them that you knew me. And she said, no, I said I met you. Do you listen or do you just talk a lot? And Wendy was like, where's all of this hostility coming from? And she was like, lying is hostile. And you've been lying all day. Andy tried to drag it and say, well, if you've met somebody a few times, then you know someone. No. If you met a couple of times, I know of you. I can't even call you an associate if I met you one or two times. If I don't know someone and they've already said they know me and I'm like, no, they don't, that is going to feel thirsty to me. And I'm not going to want to vouch for you. So I totally understand where Wendy was coming from. Nneka, were you trying to connect with Wendy to get on the show? She said no, they were already looking at her to be on Married to Medicine. I feel like she would have had a better chance if she would have just went over there with them. But at the same time, her and Anne Marie, they on the same wavelength. And just something tells me wherever they go, it just would be a fail. So then Andy asked, I believe he asked Wendy about Osu. And I love how Wendy flipped it over to Ashley real quick and said, since you brought Osu to this platform, you explain what it is. And Nneka tried to step in and defend. Let her answer. Ashley was stuck. She didn't know what to say at first. She just was silent. She finally said that she never tried to pretend to know what it was, and she knows it's culturally sensitive, but she just didn't know the severity. Then she was asked, well, what was your intention of bringing it up? And why bring it up to Nneka and not Wendy, since you know her better? Look, this is my whole thing with Ashley. She likes to present as if she's so intelligent, but she never says anything of substance. I feel like she is somewhat eloquent when she's saying whatever she's saying, but she was a pageant queen. You know, I feel like she learned that back then, but that doesn't mean that what she's saying actually holds any sort of weight. You were being messy and divisive as usual, and you purposefully pit Nneka against Wendy so you could have a dark-skinned woman on your team. So once again, y'all won't look colorist. It is what it is. Nneka said none of them in that room are competent enough to explain what Osu is. It's taboo and you just don't talk about it at all. I totally understood where she was coming from, because the way that they were discussing certain things was very disrespectful as far as I'm concerned. And y'all can't even talk about colorism without crying and getting defensive, yet y'all want to talk about somebody else's culture. Have a seat. I just still do not agree how they made it a full storyline on this show, but at the reunion they want to try to absolve themselves, wash their hands of it. Oh, we can't talk about it at all because it's taboo. When y'all drug all of this through the mud the entire season. Then Ashley had the nerve to say she's not taking responsibility for what happened afterwards between Wendy and Nneka. When that was your entire intention. She never gets the smoke she deserves for being a pot stirrer. She's so quick to apologize. And I love that Kiana brought that up later. She's the queen of that aftermath apology, right? But who cares if you continue with this trash behavior every single season? It's the same way she got on here the first season, exposing Robin's money issues unprovoked. The same way she went in on Katie, knowing that she had mental health issues, and was drilling on her until she crumbled. She doesn't have many redeemable qualities outside of being a mother. When she had that first baby, it just washed everything away. People just forgot everything that Ashley did. She actually deserves all the smoke that Candiace gets. And I wonder why she doesn't get it. Andy says to Wendy, Nneka has apologized for calling your mother a witch. What else do you need? I'm going to tell y'all one thing. You call my mama out of her name, we can never be friends. I don't know what they want from Wendy. How can I bring somebody around my mom that said that about her? So Wendy, rightfully so, said, we can coexist, but we ain't going to be friends. Nneka claims she was excited to be on a show with Wendy. They were going to be the first two Nigerians on a Housewives franchise. Then why were you so quick to comfort her and not give her the benefit of the doubt? Nneka also said that why did Wendy come for her and not for Ashley? I agree. I actually truly agree. I feel like both of y'all should have united against Ashley. But I feel like you're pointing the finger at her. You should have been mad at Ashley too. Ashley actually lied on you. Yet you could still be buddy with Ashley, and you calling Wendy all out of her name, calling her a B word and everything else. That anger, all that energy should have been focused at Ashley. So then we move on to the Kiana segment. She walked out. I loved her outfit. I thought it was so cute. I love how they pointed out that she had the best confessional that season because she is the most stylish out of the group, hands down. I think she was a great addition as a friend of. I feel like Kiana would be a great full-time housewife. Bring her back. And why are y'all not bringing a Skylar back? I felt like she was a great addition too, especially as a friend of. Like, she was also stylish as well. And she did not bite her tongue. And y'all got rid of her for absolutely no reason. They talk about how Wendy brought her on the show, but when she ended up sick on the cash trip, that Wendy left her for dead, and how Giselle was the only one to check on her. Kiana did say she felt some type of way about that. Candiace said that she felt like Giselle was being strategic by going to check on her. They also brought up that clip of Wendy saying she didn't want to share a room with Kiana. But why would Wendy want to share a room with Kiana when no one else on the trip is sharing a room? I'm sure Kiana wants her own room as well. Like, come on now. Like, they really was trying to make her look bad with that clip. So then we have Wendy's segment. They discussed her talk show. They also discussed her starting all of these business ventures. But are they coming to fruition? She did say that she's still shipping out candles daily. She said that this may be her last semester teaching because she feels she's missing out on pivotal moments with her children and she wants to be more present. They asked Wendy, why did she call Mia slow? And Wendy used, for example, Mia said that she lives a bi-coastal lifestyle because she lives in North Carolina and Maryland. And I feel like that shut all of that down. And I really didn't like how Mia tried to weaponize her child's developmental issues against Wendy. These people love weaponizing their kids when they can't find sympathy on their own. She didn't call your child slow. She called you slow. So anyway, Mia was also offended to be called a pathological liar when everybody and their mama know you will lie. You have been caught up in so many lies ever since your first scene on this show, when you didn't even know the age difference between you and G. Candiace said Mia be lying, and Mia said Candiace be crying. And Both are very true. So then we have Ashley's segment, and I feel like it was further evidence that Ashley really should be the next one out the door because she's playing in our face with this whole divorce storyline to Michael. Everybody and their mama feel like she's not really leaving him, but he just doesn't want to film on the show anymore. But I don't believe Ashley is going anywhere. Andy asked what's the holdup for filing, and she gave this BS excuse about how they have great moments and then they have toxic moments, and now she just realized he's a narcissist, so now she officially filed a complaint. And Nneka was like, well, does Michael care either way? Because he doesn't seem to. And she said he's not pushing for divorce and she's not sure what his motive is. He is dating because he took a trip on Valentine's Day. Girl, you just make yourself look worse and worse. So she says she still uses a shared account with him for the children and Uber Eats, but did admit to putting her new boobs on there. Andy asked, how much are you looking to secure in the divorce? And she said a sizable amount. I do not believe one word because she claimed on one of those seasons when they were still quote unquote together, when she signed that post-nup, that she was supposed to be getting half if they stayed together 5 years. And then last season, didn't she say she was only getting child support or something like that? See, this is what I'm talking about. If you were as smart as you try to portray yourself to be, you would have had a lawyer review anything that you signed before you signed it. And especially since Michael has been through a divorce already, he's not gonna let somebody come in and take half again. Ashley is just a flop sugar baby, and she's trying to save face, but you know you are stuck rubbing this man's feet every night for the rent. I don't understand how Ashley is just now on season 8 creating a business, and I'm not talking about that kangaroo meat restaurant because Michael owned that one. I don't understand why people get on platforms like this and don't take advantage of it. At least Giselle tried with every Hue Beauty, but that's defunct. Karen has her candles and her perfume. We see Wendy trying to start a new business every season. Candy is singing and acting. Robin had her baseball caps. She said she wants to make sure the kids are always secure and safe, and the kids will be. You're the one on the tightrope. It's not like you have your mom that you could fall back on because your husband was paying her rent. It's crazy because she had the nerve to criticize Candiace for her mother, supplying her with a place to stay, when surely your boys will benefit from the same sort of generational wealth. And I'm sure that's something that you wish you had. And I feel like a lot of Ashley's animosity from Candiace comes from jealousy, because she doesn't have to degrade herself in order to have her lifestyle. Andy asked her, do you think what Mia said was fair? Because you might not have married Michael for money in the beginning, but you're definitely staying with him for the money. She said when she met Michael, she wanted to be a news broadcaster, and she became dependent upon him because he didn't want her to work and he wanted them to travel the world together. But girl, don't act like that wasn't the goal. You didn't really want to be a news broadcaster. You wanted to be a kept woman. And that's why you did not hesitate to be a housewife and not start your own businesses. So now let's get to the fight. First of all, I am so glad that this fight was caught on film and posted publicly so we can make our own conclusion, because the way they lie, and I mean the Green Eyed Bandits Alliance, everybody in it, and production, with how they present this story and edit, they don't hesitate to lie. Kiana said that she wanted to de-escalate the fight, but clearly Deborah came in with the intention to be aggressive. Deborah literally threw a drink and the glass cut Kiana in her head. And from there, of course, she had to defend herself. And I hate the fact that they did not bring up that girl in the yellow, who is also a friend of Ashley, somebody that she brought to the party, that yanked down on Kiana's hair and caused them to rumble even further. That definitely should have been addressed. They play the footage of Deborah approaching Candiace and provoking her. And this is a woman who falsely accused her husband of flirting with her. and was proven to be a liar last season. Whenever this woman is brought around, Candiace does not engage with her. And that just infuriates Deborah even more because she is so thirsty to be on this show and did not even make the reunion. Who cares if Candiace called her a name after all that? Y'all all do it. Y'all all call each other's names. It doesn't warrant somebody to be knocked upside their head or cut with glass. Mia said that Deborah was on a rampage because she came up and tried her too. She confronted her because basically she called Deborah ugly. And when Deborah approached her, Mia backed down and said, "Oh, we're all beautiful black queens." First of all, y'all situation wasn't even that deep. Second of all, so you want Candiace to be cowardly and not stand on what she said in her confessionals behind her back to her face? Yeah, and you are the last one, Mia, to be speaking on anyone having any sort of self-control after you assaulted Wendy last season. This is when Giselle decided to pipe in and say Deborah, Candiace, Wendy, and Kay were responsible. And it's like, not only are you not beating the colorist allegations, you are further solidifying your colorist legacy. How you gonna throw the blame on all the darker women on this cast along with Deborah? She was the only culprit in this situation. And this is why I could never respect Giselle. Because if she had any integrity at all, she would say what was right in that situation, whether she liked the person or not. But her character sways with the wind between who she likes and who she doesn't. You brought a whole bodyguard to the reunion that year Monique fought Candiace. But because Mia put her hands on Wendy, you saw nothing wrong with that. And that speaks to your morals. Because you could have easily just said, I wasn't there, I don't have anything to do with that. Or you could have just said, Deborah was wrong, period. But no, you had to throw Wendy in, who was not even involved. And even Mia, who does not get along with Wendy, stood up for Wendy and said she wasn't even in it. And then, not when Wendy was defending herself and explaining how she wasn't involved. The only reason why she took back what she said is because a light-skinned person, let's be real, spoke up and said, oh, Wendy had nothing to do with it. And here she goes saying, okay, well, I'll take Wendy out of it. Who made you judge and jury? She couldn't even apologize or admit that she was wrong. She still was placing blame on Candiace. She was just saying how she didn't like how their fashion show was overshadowed with the brawl. You need to be happy the brawl promoted those basic drop shipping overpriced tacky pieces nobody was going to be looking at anyway. First of all, it was Candiace versus everybody. Let me just put that out there before I even get further in. Candiace literally was sitting there having to defend herself against everybody on that stage. Karen jumped in and tried to place blame on Candiace, trying to say, well, what made you call her vermin? Couldn't even pronounce vermin. I don't know what she was saying. She couldn't even pronounce it. Candiace explained to her again, I was minding my own business, and this lady came and got in my face first, asking, do you have something to say to me? Mia's over here once again justifying, well, if you had not said it, it wouldn't have escalated. Just because both you and Deborah have pea brains with no self-control and can't fight with words because Candy will verbally annihilate you doesn't mean she was wrong for saying whatever it is she said. Why are we placing blame on Candiace and not Deborah for behaving like a wild animal? Andy turns to Candiace and said, would you really have swung the bottle at her? She said, I don't know, because I'm literally on my own. I'm not expecting anyone else to fight for me, and I had to defend myself. And y'all, I felt so bad for her because she was tearing up. And literally, even in that moment, nobody had her back or stood up for her or defended her in that moment. Nobody. I could not believe it. And Robin was over to the side laughing at her. This is such a toxic work environment. Ashley claims that she's not attributing the incident to Candiace, but yes, you are. All of you all are implying it by saying that her words instigated the fight. Candiace said that she was going to come in and be aggressive towards her regardless. She came in with that intention. And Nneka had the nerve to say, well, your comments exacerbated her anger. Didn't you say on the show in your confessional, if Deborah would have just stayed where she was across the room, none of this would have ever happened? Where is that energy? That's exactly why you not on the show now. So then Andy jumped on Candiace and said, well, you were playing with the loaded gun. And I was disgusted by that because it's really dangerous for the boss of all people to side with the attacker against your own employee. Just like Karen said, when you invite people like that around, it opens the door to make them feel like they can just jump on us and attack us. And for Andy to basically be telling Candiace, well, you run your mouth and, you're playing with the loaded gun, you're further solidifying that. Finally, they get to Ashley because once again, she deserves most of the smoke. You are the one who invited her here. And so they ask her, did you invite Deborah to stir things up? Ashley only ever brings Deborah around when she is trying to cause drama. You did it last year with Chris and the whole Happy Eddie situation. And you knew that Deborah had a problem with Candiace and that she wanted to quote unquote clear the air. So why would you invite her knowing that there could have possibly been some sort of confrontation? No, you probably didn't know it was going to come to blows, but you knew there was going to be something that popped off, and you still invited her knowing that. Once again, she is allowed to skate past any sort of accountability. They didn't even hold her accountable for the way that she retold the story to other people that weren't there, acting like she wasn't standing in the middle of that fight when we can clearly see in the video she wasn't doing nothing but shuffling her feet and pretending like she was breaking it up. She did end up apologizing to Kay, even though I feel like Candiace deserved an apology as well. Kiana called her out for being the queen of aftermath apologies. You're not proactive about preventing the fire, but that's because she is the one who starts the fire. And nobody wants to shine a light on that. So at the end of the reunion, we get no resolution. Robin claims she has no animosity or hatred for Candiace, but girl, you was over there laughing at her pain every chance you got. Shut up. Nneka was a flop. Giselle, at some point Giselle was like she wanted Candiace to, what do you want Candiace to acknowledge exactly? That you lied on her husband? That you treat her differently from the light-skinned girls? Like, what do you want her to acknowledge? Even though we're going to talk about some big changes that are going to be made to the cast in the future, I still feel like this franchise is hopeless as long as Giselle not being reprimanded and basically being protected and wielding power. If you ask me, I feel like that last scene where her and Karen were crowning Andy, I feel like that was some sort of power move. I don't see her leaving anytime soon. And I have no problem not watching the show. I barely watched the show this season. Barely watched the show last season. I just feel like it will be so unbearable to continue tuning in. But let's just go ahead and move on to the updates. Robin has officially confirmed that she has been fired. And it's her own fault. I don't think she looks at it that way, but it is. Like, if you would have just been honest and upfront about the problems that you and Juan go through, if you didn't bite the hand that fed you by not including that on the show, but putting it behind a paywall on your podcast, you probably would still be on the show. If Juan showed up, you probably would still be there. But you took on all of Giselle's beefs, which caused you to not have certain relationships with certain people on the show. I personally feel like she just feels indebted to Giselle because Giselle's the reason why she's on the show in the first place. And she tried to shade Candiace in her statement talking about, well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that I left when I really was fired. Well, Candiace shut all that down when she posted a video announcing her pregnancy. And it was so cute. I'm so happy for her and Chris. They seem so excited to be expecting this little bundle of joy. It explains why she was even more so emotional than usual at the reunion. And it also explains why she's leaving, because she wants to have a peaceful pregnancy. And I do not blame her at all. Candiace is one of the only people on this show that doesn't need the show. And I don't care what anybody has to say, even if she has to fall back on Miss Dot. She has money and connections and can get Candiace a good job. Candiace got a degree. And don't she have her master's at this point? So yeah, even if the singing and stuff doesn't work out, she'll be fine. And no, Candiace was not fired. That's been confirmed by Bravo. And finally, Nneka was fired, and good riddance. I've already said the reasons why she needed to go. She never really made a good first impression in the first place. So y'all let me know what y'all think about this down below. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? How do y'all feel about voiceover videos? I would also like to hear your opinion about that. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in my next one. Peace.